wanted to spend a couple of minutes talking about tuning harmonicas, and maybe it will stimulate some people to discuss my process anyway. But I use a process where I reference harmonicas. A lot of people phone up and they ask me about 440 and 442, and it's very difficult to explain on the phone the process, but I'm going to make a short video. Here it is. This is how I teach it in my workshops, and if it's of help to you, well and good. If it's not, don't worry, throw it in the bin. So this is my process anyway. So the first job in any tuning is to establish exactly what your harp is playing at currently. Not to tune it, but just to establish where your harp is at. And for that I just use a piece of paper and I go through the process of blowing a note, finding out what it is on my tuner. The tuner's set to 442 and I blow it, and as soon as it gives me a reading I write that down on a piece of paper, and I go through all 10 holes with that process. So I go through all 10 holes and I write down the results of all 10, all the offsets exactly as they are without any tuning. And then I turn to the manufacturer's chart. These are published on the web, and they just list down the offsets or the difference in tuning between one note and the next. And we can compare that to our chart to see how many holes are out of tune and how many holes are in tune. And if we can see from the chart here that hole 1 should be zero, and ours is +5. Hole 2 should be -12, and it's -7. In fact, the only hole that's in tune is hole 4. Hole 4 should be 0, and on our chart it is 0. So on the face of it, it looks like we have to retune this harmonica 9 reeds. 9 reeds have to be retuned. So this is where it gets interesting. I developed a sheet here with all offsets going from 0 plus and 0 minus towards the bottom, and then I had a sheet where I cut out the actual offsets that relate to a particular tuning. So this is the offsets that are the holes that are cut out for a marine band, and what I did was right in the center, you can see if I overlaid it, at 442 I cut out the hole where it says 0, and then I cut out the hole where it says -12, and that relates to the tuning charts that are on the web. So that is my sort of reference. I need to just stop the video there to explain about 442, 443. The important thing about a harmonica is that it needs to be in tune with itself. It's a little bit like a guitar. If you tune a guitar up by ear and it's in tune with itself, it sounds great. You would never hear a guitar or a harmonica and say, "Man, that's 443.8, and I can hear it's 443.8 and not 442." You won't hear that. You'll hear that it's in tune with itself or out of tune with itself, and that's what we're doing here. Is we're testing the harp and making the tune in tune with itself. So as long as it's 442 and it's in tune with itself, or it's 442.5, 443, then you're not going to hear that it's out of tune. You will hear it's out of tune if it's out of tune with itself. So that's really what we're dealing with here. So back to the video. So here it's a very simple way of just aligning the tuning to a 442 that you can see instantly what they should be. Now the clever thing here is that if you slide it up, they all move relative to the first hole, or they all move relative to each other. Moving relative to each other is very important, because if we get our chart now and we look at the hole 1 that should be +5 and we slide our chart up to +5, we can see that hole 2 relative to hole 1 is not -12 but is -7. See, hole 1 is +5, hole 2 is -7. If we look along our chart, -7. So hole 2 and hole 1 are now in tune. Hole 3 should be a 6, but ours is a +2, so that's out of tune. And hole 4 should be a +5, and ours is 0, so we need to change that. So you can go through each of the holes and see exactly what they should be if you change the reference pitch. And so I've changed the reference pitch now to 443, and it now shuffles all the pitches relative to hole 1 up. And what it means is that this harp is pretty much in tune, and the only holes that I need to adjust is going to be hole 10. Hole 10 is currently plus 10 and it needs to be plus 5, so I need to reduce that by it needs to come down to minus, it needs to come down to 5, so I need to reduce that by 5. So there you have it. That's how I use my sheets. If you want these sheets, these little reference tuning sheets, just give me an email and I'll send you some copies. You'll have to cut the holes out yourselves. But once you've got a set of these, it makes your harp tuning very simple. So there you go. So I hope you've enjoyed watching it, and any questions, just ask. Thanks very much.